Hello, everyone, and welcome to Father, I Forgive You. I am author Brandy Hunt. Most of you know me as a publisher, author, friend, book writing coach, you name it. And today, my special guest is Abigail McNeil. And if this is your first time tuning in all weekend long for Father's Day weekend, leading up to Father's Day, we're going to be listening to stories of people who forgave their father. I know that's not popular. I know it's more popular to just walk away and have the ought against whoever, whether it's your father, your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin. But the Bible leads us to forgive no matter what happened. It's not for them, it's for you. I'll tell you my special story on Father's Day, but today I'm going to let Abigail come in her very own way. I don't know her personally. I posted on social media if there was anyone who wanted to share their story of healing towards their father, and she so graciously responded. So I'm going to let her take it away, and she's going to tell you a special story, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to interview her on what she talked about. We're going to get to know her father, know their relationship, and know how they came to heal. Abigail, take it away.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much, Brandy, for having me here.
Absolutely.
Just a little introduction about myself. Again, my name is Abigail McNeil. I am a registered nurse. And I recently started my business, and it's called Forgiving Gifts. And the purpose of it is to help individuals, kind of explore their options to living a healthier life. And my story began, I am a fatherless daughter. I didn't really have a relationship with my father at all. Um, I grew up in the South up until the age of 15. And so I always questioned, or had questions in my mind as to my father and what he looked like, what did he think about me? Did he care about me? Was he concerned about how I was doing? And I remember one day that I asked my mother, I just came out and asked her, well, who's my father? What's he like? And that didn't go over too well. She did not appreciate the question. And me as a young girl felt as though I had a right to know, like I was really wanted to know what was he like. So, but she was not happy about that, and she did not. I think for probably about a good day or so, she was angry at me for asking that question. So when she finally did answer the question, it wasn't, I guess, positive information. It was information hurtful, and it kind of expressed to me her pain. But for me, I couldn't understand why, it had to be my pain as well. So I went on, through life, and I did eventually meet him, and it was after my mom had passed away. She ended up passing away of cancer at a young age, and I think a lot of the pain and issues that she went through, and also developing cancer at such an early age, was because some things that she really buried inside of her that she really did not want to, discuss. After she passed away, I did meet my father, and I was excited about that. And I was thankful for the opportunity to finally meet him. But one of the questions I really wanted to know was like, well, did you think about me? Like, were you concerned about how I was, and why didn't you ever come? And so it really was shortly after that my father actually ended up passing away. So I never really got the answers to my question or an understanding of exactly what had happened. So, going through life as a nurse, I really started to kind of look into, like, I always was inquisitive and wanted to know why people did certain things, and I wanted to know, like, even with illness, like, why can't people get to a place of healing? I mean, you tell somebody, you have diabetes, you have heart disease, you need to cut back on the sugar, you need to cut back on the salt. And why is it that people can't do it? So I started to kind of like peel back the layers of people and really get down to like the root of the cause and issues that they may have. And I really was able to determine that people have issues, unresolved issues that they really have not let go of. And a father figure in the house is, in the African American community, is one of those main issues that we have, because a lot of the households don't have the father in the home. So, and then I started to like develop, issues, because as I went on and I ended up getting married, and then I had issues with forgiving the whole, it went through a pretty bad divorce. And then, so I had issues with forgiving for a long time in that situation. But I wanted to from the very beginning. And it took me a really long time to be able to get there, until one day I just kind of, just spoke out to the Lord and said, you have to help me, because I can't do this anymore. And so he gave me this entire platform of forgiving gifts. And in that, it gave me the tools and the steps needed to be able to get to a place of healing and forgiveness, because I didn't have what I needed. I wanted to forgive from the very beginning. I understood that, we have to forgive because God says so. But I didn't have what I needed to be able to get there. So, through me, he developed tools to be able to help individuals get there. And he, pretty much said, come on, let's go. You have these issues. I'm going to take you, and you're going to, you're going to heal past this, and you're going to help somebody else heal. So then there came, forgiving gifts. I was able to write a play. I was able to write a song. It's called Forgiveness is Healing. Started my own brand, Forgiveness is Healing, and writing a book right now. And so what I've discovered in all this is that, I had some underlying issues that I really haven't dealt with, and I guess one of the things that I had a problem with was kind of feeling like never being enough, never feeling like you're good enough. Like, why wasn't I enough for, him to come get me, or enough for him to write a letter or say happy birthday, and that spilled over into other relationships where I found myself looking for love of a father through male figures, and actually picking the same type of men that my father was, and it just kind of like the cycle just repeated itself. And it just felt like, okay, almost feeling like you're undeserving of something good, and you just kind of accept whatever, happens, whatever is available to you, and then trying to find love and just accepting it and thinking that it's what you need. So then I just kind of just went through and just kind of dealt with that. And so I find myself now just really being able to look back and to think about like everything, like how did I end up here? And really starting to think about, the issues of unforgiveness. And it's a really difficult topic, it's a difficult topic for a lot of people to be able to get through. So I'm just, I'm happy for this experience. I'm happy for everything that's happened, to me, because it's made me stronger, and it's allowing me to be able to help, someone else. So, in regards to my father, I forgive him. I don't know that I ever really was angry with him, but more of, I guess, disappointment, just kind of disappointing, and just, and then when I finally did meet him, I just kind of wanted him to just love me, like, give me all the love that I didn't have for 20 years, and then I guess, we just have to realize too, that sometimes things happen. People have issues of their own that they're dealing with, and sometimes we make mistakes, and so it gets us into a place where we don't really know what to do or what to say. And I just kind of felt like that was where he was at that moment, like, and not only him, but, my parents, they both made a mistake, so, that's just, my relationship with my father. And I forgive him. Like I said, I don't know that I was really angry with him, but that's just, just where I am with it right now.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you. That you said a mouthful in 15 minutes. You rolled us, over through the years. So we're going to back up a little bit, and I'm going to ask the questions that I know the people want to know. So we're going to go back to the beginning and say, how old were you when you say you were a little girl, when you approached your mom? About how old were you?
I think I was around 8, between 8 and 10. Mm-hmm.
So you're significantly still processing these things, of why he's not there, why your mom is pretty much shunning the question. Did you have
Mhm.
any other family members, uncles, aunts, anybody that was trying to get you to him or to merge that relationship, or was everybody kind of just hushed?
Everybody was, well, when she was around, everybody was just hush, you know. But my older brother did. He was trying his best to get in touch with him. So I think that early on, at some point, he was able to reach out to him, so he would call him and talk to him.
Do you have the
But
same father?
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did
Yes,
they have
three.
any kind of relationship?
I think it was just not really. Maybe, conversation on the phone here and there when he would reach out to him. But as far as like a real relationship, no.
Gotcha. And
Mm-mm.
how much older is your brother?
7 years.
7. Okay. And
Mhm.
were your mom and dad dating, married, anything like that?
They were dating.
They were dating. So
Hmm.
so here you are, 8 years old. Your brother is, guess that made him about 15, 16.
Hmm.
You're trying to weigh these waters together. You finally found him at what age?
20.
Okay, so pretty about 10, 12 years later. And then he passed away. So then you had to deal with a whole new scar.
Right.
So the scar was already there for him not being there. Now you
Mhm.
have a whole new scar because grief in itself is a battle. So,
Mhm.
how many years was between your mom dying and your dad dying?
Oh, about 5 years. I think it was
So not
five or
long.
six
That's not
years.
long.
Right.
Yeah. So you have all these scars that you're trying to work your way through. What do you believe was the key to being able to work through all of that in so little time?
I think just the key was really just a lot of prayer. My, faith in God. I had a beautiful family. My aunt, took us in, and, I had a relationship with God, and just knowing that through that process that he was with me, and that I could make positive choices in my life. I can decide to move in a certain, on a certain path or towards bettering myself, getting an education, taking care of myself, as opposed to kind of just falling into this deep depression of why me, and ended up like down a road of drugs or alcohol, or you know um and young relationships and things like that. So I was able to have good direction, even though it was tough. It was very tough, but I was
Amen.
able to have support. Hmm.
Do you think that, and I like to sidebar, I haven't asked her any of these questions, so if she looks at me crazy, it's okay. And if she waves me off and be like, no, girl, we can't even talk about that, I understand. So let's roll into the marriage a little bit. Is it okay we
Hmm.
talk about it?
Sure.
Okay. So do you believe that your marriage or the ending of the marriage had anything to do with not being healed from your father not being there?
I think so, because I think I was looking for, there were red flags that I should have been able to, move through, be able to recognize and be able to, understand like this is not a good situation for me to be in. But
Hmm.
I think not having that relationship with my father, again, made me feel like, this is as good as it's going to get,
Right.
or making me feel like, this is all I deserve. Um, or and also just feeling like you just wanting to feel loved.
Yeah.
So I think that had a lot to do with it. My self-esteem probably wasn't as it should have been, going into the marriage. And yeah, so I just feel like that all was just really related.
I agree. And my book is actually titled Dealing with the Hand I Was Dealt. So when you talked about, you got to deal with this and you have to deal with that, that is exactly what I had to do. I had to chop the tree down, is what I tell people. It's funny, I have a tree behind me, behind me.
Uh-huh.
Tree, if they came to chop this tree down, they wouldn't chop it from the roots, but that's the goal. They would start it at the top and they would kind of chop it down a little bit till they got to that stump, And then
Mm-hmm.
that stump is what they have to go down into the dirt and start digging. And that's the part we don't like, because that's really where the root system is. That tree's been growing for a long time. They can't just come and pull it up off the top and think they're going to pull it somewhere, unless it's beside water. But even though it's beside water and it might be a little soft, they still got to go into that root system. And unfortunately, being fatherless creates other little baby roots, is what I call it. So being fatherless is like the big tree, but up under it, you have abandonment issues. I know I did. You have
Mm-hmm.
rejection issues, like you just stated. Am I even worth? I mean, the person who gave me birth didn't even want to stick around. So
Mm-hmm.
why would I require another person who's just said he gonna love me to stick
Right.
around or to respect me or to
Right.
give me anything? Why would I even feel worth it? So even though we know we should, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't know you should, because if that's not your normal, you don't know that lifestyle. So when someone's going, oh, he's respectful, or for me, my husband, he liked to stay out at night. Well, ex-husband now. we probably should write a book together, sister.
Right. We
So
should.
he liked to stay out all times of the night or days at a time, but that was normal to me. It irritated me, but I didn't do it. I didn't really push back too much, because I saw my stepfather do the same thing. So he would go days at a time, and
Mm-hmm.
so when my husband was doing it, I was like, oh, I guess that's just what men do. My daddy
Right.
left,
Mm-hmm.
and although he didn't leave like on 2 feet and walk out the door and leave my mom in that aspect, he still left. And
Mm-hmm.
um, the semantics behind the suicide itself was had something to do with drugs. So again, it was like you chose something over me. So as my life went on and men started to choose things other than me, that was my normal. So when people would say, why are you tolerating that? What else is there? I haven't seen anything else. You're trying to tell me that something else exists, but I don't see it. It's not my normal. And so while even watching it, someone watching this video may be thinking, that's my life. That's not normal. And so I always tell people, you got to catch a new normal. So those people who were talking in my ear, I eventually had to just say, maybe they're right, because what you just stated, I told you, you probably could have just rewrote the book just now. I'd said I dated the same man over 10 years. He just had a different name every time. So every time I dated someone, they genetically looked different, but
Mm-hmm.
their characteristics were exactly the same. And it started the same and it ended the same. And it was like, okay, why do I keep doing this? And you have to watch a later video to find out why I kept doing it and what happened. But so talking here, if you just tuning in, talking with Miss Abigail McNeil, telling us her story of not growing up with her father, finally meeting him after she had been asking many years about who he was, where he was. She finally reconnected with him, and then he passed away 5 years later. And then she had a new wound that she had to heal. But we do appreciate the fact that God allowed you to meet him before he took
Right.
his final rest. How did that
Right.
feel? And because you're shaking your head, so that must have been one of the feelings that you felt. Did you feel peace even to have had that moment, those 5 years? Because it could have been none. So how did you feel when you finally did get to meet him, but then God took him on to glory?
I am grateful. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for finally having the opportunity, to meet him. I was excited, when I did meet him, was kind of wanting to know, did he look like what I always thought he did? Because I kind of developed my own, view of what he looked like. And he was tall, he was, and he was handsome. And so I was happy to actually be able to put that together. Now I, develop after all these years, now I can see, what he really looks like. So I'm grateful for that. Because just like you just said, it could have been never,
Yeah.
given the opportunity, because some people don't get that opportunity. So I'm blessed to have had that opportunity to finally meet him. And I wouldn't change that for anything, and for him to finally see me, you
Right.
know. And so, yeah, so I'm just grateful. and I wouldn't change it, change it for the world.
So we're going to talk to two different sets of people. So first, I want you to talk to the fathers who may be watching this, because we don't know whose hand this will land in. Their fathers, they know they have children in the world, and they have not come to that place where they're ready to reach out to the mother and say, you know what, I know I've been missing for 10, 15, 20, 40, 50 years. I have a uncle who just met his father, and he's 50 years old. And so is in a Black community, we don't know because we haven't been anything else. I always tell people I can talk about the Black community because that's the only community I've been a part of. So, but in our community, we sweep things under the rug. We don't, we hush about everything. Don't say nothing, don't do nothing, don't tell nobody. And this fatherless, not that there's not other communities who deal with being fatherless, but like you mentioned, it's like it plagues our communities, single mothers, and it's not a new generation thing. I'm about to be 40. How old are you?
47.
Oh, really? Go ahead. I was gonna say 35, 30, I was gonna put you between 35 and 40, and that's only because of the information because you don't look that old. But hey, they say that don't crack. So, so we're not 12 and 15 and 20 years old. So this is not a new age epidemic. This has been around for a long time, where men see these children and then they run from their responsibilities. So that person is watching this video right now. What encouragement, because we're not here to bash you. We're not here to tell you how horrible of a person. That's not our MO. We are here to tell you that healing, I don't know what the scripture is, but the Bible says that healing is the children's bread. So we are here to help you make that first step, make that second step. Maybe you have called and you say, well, she don't want to work with me. You hear God say, I've tried. What solace or what encouragement would you give a gentleman, a man that's watching now that does have children? What would you say to him?
I would say to him that it's never too late. As long as you have blood running through your veins, it's never too late to be able to reach out to your children. Your children are longing for you, whether they are 3 years old and you may thinking, oh, they're 30 years old now, they're not worried about me anymore. They are. They still want that relationship. They want to know who you are. They want to be able to develop a relationship. And I think also that, they may come off sometimes as a little angry and upset. And that's something that you really have to kind of just work through to be able to get there. But knowing that they really do want you in their lives. So I would say it's never too late. Reach out, get the help that you need yourself, because sometimes, you're dealing with your own issues. And sometimes our fathers are dealing with the fact that their fathers wasn't there. And so then it's a whole generational curse that's passed down, generation to generation of hurt and pain and disappointment of not having somebody there. So I think that if you really just kind of go through the healing process for yourself first, and that would kind of help you to open up and to be able to reach out, to your son or your daughter, and just let them know that you love them and that you care. I think that it's just so important for you to be able to develop that relationship with them. And so if you can have the time, who they are, where they are, then go ahead and reach out, and then sometimes you may have to start off with an apology. I'm sorry, I wasn't here. I love you. I know I can't be your father, but at least we can develop a relationship, if you allow it. So I think it's really important. If you can do it, just do it.
Amen. And that's good. That was some good stuff. She said, try at least, and take an apology with you. Even if you feel like you weren't wrong, you were wrong, they did you wrong, and seek out your own healing, because it is some kind of brokenness inside of a person to abandon anything that they're supposed to be responsible for, whether that's a job, finances, people. If you walk away from things without reason, is what I say, there's some abandonment issues, which is what she mentioned inside of you. And it's nothing wrong with raising your hand saying, you know what, I need help. There are actually also court systems that have been put in place to make sure that children can meet their fathers and things like that. So try to start removing the excuses and put, I can't, and let's see how we can. Okay, so we're going to flip it over to now. If there's a child, whether you're a child in age or you're still someone's child. We're all someone's child. So someone's child is watching this, whether you're, I guess to be on Facebook, you're supposed to be like 16 or 17. So whether you're 16 or whether you're 60. So speak to that person who is either looking for their father or already knows that father relationship has maybe severed, maybe they've already passed away, or they've been looking for them, still can't find them. How to speak to that person's heart?
I think that if you're the ones that's really, longing for a relationship with your father, and you're trying to develop that relationship with them, I would say just go into it with an open mind. Be open to whatever happens, because, and then also I would say go back into, do a little research for yourself, go back into history, go back into your father's history, try to determine why they may have done some of the things that they've done. What was their relationship like with their father? And I think you start to develop that some people can't give you what they don't have. And so if they've never had a relationship with their father, then it's really difficult for them to be your father to you, because they don't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. So if you go back a little bit, I think that it would help you be able to have a better understanding and also develop a little bit of empathy, knowing that, okay, well, my father, is not there for me, but, his father wasn't there for him as well. Could, develop an understanding as, why they decided to make the decisions that they did. And again, like I said, just be open to the relationship. Sometimes we go into it and we're not open. We want to, make them feel unforgiving. We want to make them carry our hurt and our pain. And that's when you're going to get that, they're going to back away from you, because if you go into it as an attack, mm-hmm. I want to tell you what you didn't do for me for the past 15 years. You were never there for my birthday. You were never there for Christmas. I just want to, then you're going to get, resistance. So you want to, if you really want to be able to know your father, and you want to develop a relationship, and you want to try to do it, start off in a positive manner, because he's already feeling, hurt, disappointed, afraid, feel like he neglected you, and feel like, he don't deserve, a relationship with you. So I would say just be open if it's something you truly want to do, and just give it a chance, and see where it goes. It's worth it.
Thank you. That's awesome. So I didn't ask her again, these are all organic questions. So if she looks like, what did you just ask me? Give her a minute to answer. Okay. So the question is, if you could call forgiveness something else or describe it another way, what would you call it?
I would describe it as freedom to live the life that you're supposed to live. Because if you hold on to, unforgiveness, it leaves you stuck. You're not able to really move forward. I kind of look at it as, for me, that I was kind of like existing but not living. Mm-hmm. So once you're able to let go of issues, that's when you're going to start to live. And then once you start to live, you really start to develop and discover what your purpose is in life.
Amen. And you mentioned earlier how you had to lean on God. And I think people really think that's cliche-ish, but it's the truth. Like literally, that's why he tells us, I'll be your mother when you're motherless. I'll be your father when you're fatherless. He wouldn't have had to tell us that unless it was going to happen, whether it was going to happen in their old age, whether it was going to happen when we were young. We didn't know that it was going to happen, but I believe that he went ahead and interjected himself as what we were going to need so that we didn't get stuck. But that's what happens, is we get stuck mentally. And I think my most stuck place was understanding. I wanted to understand everything. I'm a logical, um, down to my baby toenail. I want to know the reason. I'm logical, theoretical. So I have to have all of these reasons. And God is like, nah, not going to give you one. Just move on. And you're like, that's it. Like he said, I give you peace that passes understanding, but I didn't promise you understanding. And that was the hardest thing for me to understand was, so you're not going to, 2 + 2 is 4 always, right? So we try to use that same equation system when it comes to the things of the kingdom. If this happens and this happens, then this is going to happen, right? But God is always giving some new extra. He's adding some sauce in. What's the chef's name that used to be like Pam? That's what he reminds me of. And so now getting ready to approach 40, I have to look at it a total different way than I did when I was 20. Because, well, for one, it's not the same. I'm not the same. And like you mentioned, once you let it go, whether the let it go is the person, maybe it's the thoughts that you had about the person, maybe it's the way that you thought it was supposed to come out. I had to let that go too. I had to let go. Well, why did it have to happen this way? Why couldn't it have happened this way? Well, Brandy, because this is not your world.
Right.
So we get all wrapped up into holding on to different situations that didn't come out the way we wanted them to, instead of just saying, well, God, if this is the way that you ordained it, not me, I don't even agree with it. But if this is the way that you ordained for it to be, I'll agree with that. Because if you allowed it, then we have to agree with it. It's almost like standing there fighting for something that is not going to change. This isn't
Right.
going to change. You just standing here toggling and tossing back and forth with God. You're not moving forward. But once you let it go and say, you know what? I'm going to go do my purpose, whatever that purpose is. I'm going to live out loud, which is what you said. I'm going to start living instead of existing. I'm going to start attaching myself to things that match my purpose, not match my past. So once we
Right.
started doing those things, that's how we started flourishing. And once you allow that grief to pass, whether it's grief of, you can have grief over someone who's still living. I didn't realize that until I actually had to experience it. And I was like, man, I feel like I felt when I lost my father, and I had to realize that grief wasn't just death of a person, like a natural death, but also death of friendships, death of situations that you found yourself in, marriage. All of those things can cause grief. But once you realize, you know what, I'm going to let it go. I started making decisions based off of who God said I was and not who people said I was. You mentioned, we talked offline, we're fatherless, but that doesn't mean we have to make decisions based off of the old version of us, the fatherless version of us. Yes, we are fatherless, but we have a heavenly father that replaced our earthly father. Well, technically he was there first anyway. So we're not really fatherless as a whole. We're in the natural, we're fatherless, but we now know, because we leaned into God so much, that that's all we need. And so
Right.
we no longer have to fill the void, because the void isn't there. But I believe that God will allow us to have the void so we can be reminded, that's where I go in that void. So let the people know where you can be found on social media, any of that kind of stuff, emails.
Okay.
So how can people get in contact with you?
You can reach me on my email is forgivinggifts@gmail.com. I have a website out, and it's Forgiving Gifts. You can also reach me on Facebook at Abby Space Gale, as well as Forgiving Gifts, and Instagram as well, as Guile, GYLE 001, and then also on LinkedIn as Abigail McNeil.
Nice. And what are some of the services again that you offer? I know you're RN, but what
Yes.
are your other services?
So my service is I'm a certified life coach in addition to that. And I do coaching and helping people find their healing, and really show the relationship between unforgiveness and illness when we don't let go. In regards to like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, why, we have those issues. But when you go back into, a little bit of the history, you tend to find out that people have, these underlying things they're not dealing with that's causing them to make ineffective coping mechanisms to be able to get to a place of healing. So that's the coaching part of it. I also have a book business, and it's I sell merchandise with reminders to help people get to the place of healing. So as t-shirt, mugs, candle, keychain, and journal. And then also I provide like steps on how to be able to let go of past hurt and resentment. It's and it's, it's labeled, steps to healing, and it's time to heal. So through the coaching, I also provide that, because that's the one thing I didn't have. I felt like when I needed, and as I was going through the processes, I needed you have to put it in my hand. You just can't tell me it's because this is what it is and just do it and get over it and move. I have to have something to work with. So I developed something to help people get there. And I have a book coming out a couple months. It's called Purposeful Healing. And it's, pretty much talking about my story as a young girl. And then also the decisions that I made, and the unforgiving issues, that I kind of dealt with. And then how I decided to be purposeful about my healing. And how that was important from day one, is how to be purposeful about, we're purposeful about a lot of things, our hair, our nails, but how many of us are really purposeful about when we get out of bed in the morning, what I'm going to heal through this process and really grow through it. In addition to that, so there is, like I said, again, a song out is called Forgiveness is Healing, that is found on YouTube, and also the streams, iTunes and Apple Music and things like that.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can drop it down below the video once the video goes live. If you can drop your links and stuff down there, that will be good.
Sure, I will do that. And I think that's pretty much it. So I look forward to anyone that needs help, to reach out to me if you need, because it can be, going through the steps of healing can be difficult. So if you need help with that process, you can reach me on my website or one of the social media platforms, and we can, try to see if we can help you get there.
It is. Accountability, I believe, is one of the key components of healing. Because, accountability is really the key component to a lot of things. Even when, I started training and losing weight, I needed an accountability partner. It's just something about, you're not in trouble. You just need someone to make sure that you stay on the right track. Because I'm a book coach. I'm an author. I'm a publisher. And people just get off track. Life causes people to get off track because they don't really prioritize. They kind of just throw everything in the pot and just pick out what they're going to do that day. But when it comes to healing, she said, you have to be purposeful. You have to do things every day, sometimes twice a day when it comes to healing. I don't know how many times I had to say, I forgive you when I go through different situations, people, whether it's people betraying me or a situation maybe not going my way. I have to constantly remind myself, keep walking, keep moving forward, don't look back. I have accountability partners. I remember one time I really wanted to say something on social media. I know y'all wouldn't believe that because I never say anything on social media. This tells you this was really, really bad. And I wanted to clear up my name. And me and someone prayed about it. And by the time I got home, which was about a 45-minute drive, they were messaging me again, make sure you let it go. They must have knew. And this funny thing is that I didn't tell them that I had picked it back up, but they picked me up in the spirit and knew that by that long drive, I had thought about it again and was like, I'm going to just take this one for the team. I'm going to just go ahead and do it. And so accountability partners, coaches, experts, they keep you in line with what you said you wanted. And I always tell people, if you tell me you want to write a book today, in 3 months, you still haven't put anything on the paper, I don't believe you. But if you start writing today and next week you say, you know what, I've been trying and I'm struggling, then that I can work with that because you're telling me I put my feet to the fire. I'm trying. I'm just not getting anything. Accountability helps everybody stay on track. Now I could say, okay, write chapter 1 and send it to me. With your coaching, you may give them different exercises to do. Write yourself a love letter. I do that like once a month. Write yourself a love letter. I wrote a letter to my father. This different exercises your accountability coach will do with you so that you can get to that healing and that deliverance and that purpose that you said you wanted. So what are your closing remarks? And let's see how fast that hour goes by. It's just like that.
Fast, yeah. My closing remarks would be, and as you were talking about accountability, the one thing I want people to understand is if you need that healing and you want to go through the steps, to be able to get there. Accountability is probably about 95% of the program, because it's not so much about what happened, it's really about how you responded to it. What was your response to the situation? What are you going through in your head over and over again? What are you reminiscing on? Is it positive? Is it negative? Is it effective? So it is really about your healing. And the focus really is on you, because you're the only one that can determine, your path. You can only one to decide whether you're going to get through this or you're going to stay stuck. So I just want you to know that, the accountability is very important. And my closing remarks would be just thank you, for this opportunity to be here and to share. I'm grateful for that. I love to be able to help people. I know what it feels like to be in an unforgiving space. It's not a good feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see people go through that unnecessarily. If there's help out there, and if I can encourage you in some way to be able to get there, then I really want to be able to do that. I feel like this is my purpose. Some people don't have an opportunity to determine what their purpose is. And now I know that this is my purpose. This is what I'm here for. And so I'm grateful for that. And I just want to be able to share with the world and, help as many people as I possibly can to be able to get to a place of healing and letting go and living free and, finding happiness and joy in life.
Amen. And thank you for being here. And so she said a lot. I'm going to have to go back and watch the replay myself when this goes live. And again, if you're watching this, this should be airing between the weekend of Father's Day. This is Father, I Forgive You, whether that's your natural father, your stepfather, your father who stepped in, maybe he didn't step in so well, your spiritual father, and God the Father. There's so many, and fathers are supposed to protect. So if your father didn't protect you, I even know someone, it was a little girl, her father molested her. We're not saying that these things are easy by no stretch of the imagination. She even said, while this lasted an hour, her healing and my healing took 20 years. Just between the time she started searching out her father, my father died when I was 12. We're now 40 on the other side. So we're by no stretch of the imagination saying, oh, just go forgive your father and move on. That is what we're going to do. But we understand that there's time and seasons and education that you need, and healing is painful. So it doesn't happen overnight, because God understands he can't just heal you just like that, because it's a process. Remember the tree? We can't just uproot it. We have to chop it down a little bit at a time, because if they do, and if they did try to upheave that tree, when it falls over, it could damage something. That's a whole nother word by itself. If you try to dig up everything at one time, you may end up damaging something else. I think there's a Bible verse that talks about let the wheat and the tares grow together, and then at its due season, God will separate the wheat from the tares. So this could be your season where it's time to separate the wheat from the tare, but it's going to be a little bit at a time, because if he pulled too hard, you might be like, nah, I'm good. I don't want to do this. And you'll walk away from the whole thing. So God has to do it a little bit at a time. But take the first step. She's awesome. I told you, I have never met her, had never talked to her. We talked on email a few times, but she's greatly blessed my heart. And I hope she has done the same for you. Stay tuned. This isn't the last show. I don't know how many are going to be afterwards, but there's at least 3 to 4 more speakers coming in the next coming days. Father, I forgive you. Just choose to forgive, choose to heal, choose to move forward. And like she mentioned, don't stay stuck. Look for your healing. Be healed on purpose. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.